Hello and welcome to another Google Hangout for Channels Beam on Channels Television. I am Mayowa Ogundele, and this afternoon we're broadcasting from Lagos in Nigeria, and the topic this very lovely afternoon is centered around the 2015 elections, which are just around the corner. But before that, there are a lot of issues that have come up which we will be discussing right about now. Some of the issues are the controversy surrounding Professor Atahiru Jega's terminal leave, the question as to whether he's a public servant or a civil servant. We'll also be discussing controversy surrounding the card readers, which today are being tested in 12 states in the country, spread across 6 geopolitical zones. As we speak, the card readers are being tested by INEC, but some parties have kicked against the use of card readers for various reasons. These are some of the things we'll be discussing on the Hangout, as well as the new party, Young Democratic Party, that the court has ordered INEC to register. Now, word is that the Young Democratic Party has asked INEC to reprint election materials to accommodate their party, and this is just about a few days to the election, so we're wondering what is going to happen. Of course, there are talks again of, there are warnings rather, about another election shift. Very recently, about 2 days ago, the chairman of the NHRC, Professor Chidi Onikalu, warned against any attempt to postpone the elections yet again, warning that it may result in violence. So these are some of the issues we'll be discussing, and on the Hangout, I have 3 gentlemen already waiting to kick off the conversation. I have Olu Muiwa, who's calling from New Zealand. Thank you so much. I also have Mudia David, who is in Lagos, Nigeria, as well as Michael Honey, who's calling from Italy. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining the Hangout. Muiwa, I'll start off with you. It's been a while we saw you on the Hangout, and it's a pleasure to have you again. What is your take? Is Jega a civil servant or a public servant?
Well, I think Jega is a public servant, and I also think that the people clamoring for Jega's terminal leave to be evoked are basking on the euphoria of the successes recorded when Maurice Hiru was unceremoniously hissed out. That said, what they are not telling Nigerians is that there is a proviso attached to that leave clause you have in Jega's case, which says that if the occupier of that office doesn't want to go on leave, he or she reserves the right to apply for a terminal leave. You cannot evoke that leave except the occupier of the office chooses to. And again, it reminds us of a set of people who are desperate to hold on to power by every and any means possible. So for me, I think it's a no issue. I think it doesn't arise. I think it's uncalled for. I also think that it would be wrong for anybody at this stage to argue that the guy who has all along been in charge of the preparations for the elections shouldn't supervise the process he has almost seen to the end. So I think it will cause a lot of confusion, and which could have serious implications on the polity. I don't know, I haven't seen, except in the Nigerian case, countries or instances where you have to change the referee almost in the middle of the game. We have started a process. There has been campaigns. First, there was registration of political parties. Secondly, we had the voters register being updated. Thirdly, we had people collecting their voters register and all that. And then we had the announcement for the dates for the election. So the process of the match or the football match, if you like, started. And you have a referee and umpire, so to speak, who's been in charge of his work. Why would you change an umpire in the middle of the game? That's the question people who are clamoring for the Gaza removal or terminal leave invokement should answer. No one wants to answer that. If you are so confident of yourself, if you are cocky, you're going to win an election. If you believe you are ready and if you believe you've done things that are seriously meaningful for Nigerians, I see no reason why any responsible political party should be afraid of going into the polls. It's a normal exam. So my take would be that the guy should be allowed to conduct the elections. Whatever happens to the elections, he must be saddled with that responsibility of taking the blame or the glory. So it's a no issue, and it's something that should be discontinued, and it's a process we must reject. Whoever wins, wins, and I think it will be unfair and it might have serious implications, as I did say earlier, for the Nigerian polity if Jega gets removed or booted out of office, as he was in 2011. So my take would be that it's a no for me. Jega should remain. He needs to finish this work. Good or bad, he needs to carry or shoulder the responsibility for it and accept the blame or the glory, whichever one comes.
Great, thank you so much. Now we've been joined by Farouk. Farouk, thank you so much for joining the Hangout. Please do tell me where you're calling from. Hello, Farouk. Okay, Farouk, I can't seem to hear you, so I'll get back to you. We have been joined by a new caller, Etudaye Ajayi. Thank you for joining the Hangout. I hope I
Thank you.
pronounced that correctly.
Well, you didn't quite get it right, but you'll pass.
Can you please tell me what the correct pronunciation is?
So the correct pronunciation is Ichidaye Nopa Ajayi, and I'm
Etudaye.
calling Ichidaye.
Etudaye. Okay, where are you calling from, please?
I'm calling you from Australia,
Great. Where in Australia?
from Brisbane, Australia.
Okay, great. So we're talking about the 2015 general elections. More
Yep.
specifically, we're talking about issues that have come up ahead of the elections. And we started
Right.
off with talks about Jega's terminal leave, questions whether he's a public servant or a civil servant, what the implications are if he is, made to proceed on his terminal leave before the elections. So let me quickly get your reaction about that. What do you think will happen if Jega is made to go on terminal leave before the elections?
Well, first of all, I must say that um, people who are um, people who are pushing for Jiga's terminal leave before the election do have, in some way, a point. And the point they have is that usually for these people, they go on leave about 3 months before the termination of their appointments. However, I think that Jega's case is a lot different from previous cases. It is different because we are in the period of a few days to election. And so if he goes on leave, it might be disastrous. Now, a lot of people have argued, especially on Channels TV, saying that what Jega has done and what Nigeria is doing, as a matter of fact, is to build strong institutions. And if Jega has built INEC as an institution the way it should be, then there will be no issue with him leaving. But then I tend to disagree with that opinion because he might have built an opinion, but we all know that every institution is driven by the head, and different heads, even though they carry along the same philosophy or a single philosophy of the institution, they all come with their different styles of leadership. And these styles of leadership greatly influences what goes on in the institution. I do not think that Jega should, for any reason, leave his seat before the election. If he does, it would be a great indication that the ruling party is playing some games or is trying to manipulate prospective results for the election.
All right, thank you so much. Farouk, I hope you can hear me now, and I hope I can hear you as well. Hello, Farouk. Hello. Okay, Farouk, I have to get back to you again. Moving on, I have Mikhail on the Hangout. Michael. Great. So, Michael, what is your take on this?
Actually, I think Jega is not, by law, I think is not supposed to go on compulsory terminal leave. The word compulsory underlined. I think if he likes, he can take it. If I'm if you're my employer and you decide to give me a leave even 1 year before the time expires, I can smile to the bank and just walk away and take it. And if I think my time is not yet over, I think I still have the right to stay till my time actually expires on the job. But even if we want to invoke that compulsorily, I think if a man is supposed to go on leave by June 30th, if you want to count backwards, 90 days backwards, obviously it's going to be like March 30th. So you cannot play pranks to cut off the day and say, oh, this person will go before the normal time. So there's something fishy here if you actually look into the whole matter critically. And it is very, very important that every stakeholder comes out clean on this matter. Um, because we should not try uh, to play games with all this volatile issue, particularly at this time that the country appears to be very, very heated up politically. But yeah, having said that, I think one thing again we have to be looking into is that even if it now comes to a point, now that I'm not a lawyer and it has been argued that Jega is supposed to go, compulsorily should go before that time, I don't know, whatever comes. It's not enough most of the time to just interpret any law. You have to look at the legality of anything and the experience of anything before you come to a conclusion. Uh, by 100%, it is not expedient at all for Jega to go on leave at this particular time because there is no way you bring in a new person and this person will just go into the no matter what he has put on ground. And I want to borrow a phrase from the first speaker. Whosoever comes, there is something called a success. It is my success or it is my failure. As long as you are going to say it is the success of the institution, there is always a man that you want to. Anybody can easily absorb himself. Oh, no, 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 I was not the one that did it. It was the first person that did it. So let him do whatever he has put in place and see what is going to score. After all, it was rated very high in 2011. I had an excellent scores. Uh, I think we have four issues on ground. Should I proceed to other issues or you?
No, just hold on. We're not, quite done with Jega, but let me move over to Farouk now. I hope
Nothing.
that Farouk's audio is good. Farouk, can you hear me? Hello, Farouk. Farouk, can you hear me? Okay, Farouk is off the hangout. So I guess we just have to move on. Back to you, Muiwa. Now, there's something interesting. Recently, it seemed as though the PDP did not really trust Jega any longer, even though Jega came to be INEC chairman via PDP government. So one is wondering what exactly, and then there's this last week there was this back and forth between APC and PDP. APC saying Jega must stay, PDP saying what is your interest in Jega, and all that back and forth. And it seems as though PDP perhaps has an axe to grind with Jega or something. What do you make of this?
Well, again, Mara, you see, PDP of late is increasingly becoming a party that has lost hold of everything it used to have in its control, and I don't blame that party. For me, if you ask me, I see it as a dying party. A dying party is struggling for relevance. PDP doesn't just have an axe to grind with Jega, it has an axe to grind with an average Nigerian who wants to see meaningful change on the streets and in their lives. So, but for the people who are in this party, for them it's a business, and again you cannot, they cannot watch the business they have held on to for 16 years crumble like a pack of cards. So it's a party fighting for its life, and again I wouldn't blame them if they seem so desperate like we have seen over the last couple of months since this started. PDP would do anything, and the leadership of that party And indeed, all those who make up that party will do everything humanly possible to retain power on May 29th. So if they see you and I as an obstacle to the retention of that power, we can be disposed of. And so that's what you're seeing happening. It's a party that has had the opportunity to change the lives of Nigerians for 16 years and consistently, almost on a daily basis, has failed to do that. And it's time for examination now. Nigerians are complaining and Nigerians are wanting to see a change of government. The slogan itself isn't about Ibuari Imagine. The slogan for me is anybody but Jonathan, and Jonathan signifies the symbol of that party. So what you're seeing them do is a perfect description of a party that knows that the time is up, but doesn't want to admit willingly. So we're going to see more of that as the days go by. We're going to see a party that would show to Nigerians that say, whether you like it or not, we're going to rule for 60 years, as some people have done. Jega, yes, was thought to be a PDP man, judging by the previous elections that's conducted and how the 2011 elections were handled. But again, these are people who only understand what benefits them. And once it doesn't benefit them any longer, they don't see as a boy again. I wouldn't say that Jega is anybody's boy. I would see Jega as an academic who knows his onions, who knows the task he's up to, who has tried within the limits of the resources he's got to deliver. Again, he's human and he's got his flaws. I see him as a thoroughbred academic who can deliver at any point in time. Sadly enough, the tide isn't favoring the party. And so that's why you're seeing them mounting this stiff opposition against them. They just continuous and hold of that office that he occupies. So for me, I expect to see more drama as we approach the March 28th. What is interesting for me as an individual is that for once, this party and this group of people have been made aware that they can be sacked. That makes me happy as a Nigerian. And some of us are looking forward to that change. Again, whether the change will be the APC, that's another person entirely. But as I'm concerned, I want to see that party grow. And I want to see it go the legal way possible. Jega or no Jega, Nigerians are tired. And it will again be wrong, as I did imply, to say that the guy is anybody's. Although the PDP might think the guy is their person. Good luck to them. Whoever conducts that election on a free and fair basis, I'm more than 100% certain that the people will lose that election. So for me, that's all that matters.
Okay, so thank you. I mean, well, whether PDP would go or stay is yet to be seen. Come March 28th, we know what the party's fate is. Okay, so back to you now, Ajayi. We've just talked about Jega and INEC and Jega's removal or leave. But there's one interesting thing that happened this past week, and that is that the court ordered INEC to register Young Democratic Party, a new party, a party that has not, whose logo and details have not been reflected in any of the information and election materials. And the party is saying we have to be included in the process. What do you make of this new development?
Well, I think, and I strongly think so. Now, I'm going to share my thoughts with the risk of sounding biased, the risk of being biased. Now, I think that the PDP, with all sense of modesty and all sense of responsibility, is trying their best to break the opposition, to break the strong opposition they know that they have. You would ask the question at this point in time that why are all these things happening when we have this 6 weeks extension to elections? So now that they are signing up a new party, if elections were to hold on the 14th of February as earlier scheduled, what would have happened? What would have become of this? What would have happened to this new party that they are now signing up? So before the 14th of January of February, we all thought the election was going to hold, and Jega had given his word of how INEC was prepared for elections. All of a sudden, the government came with their strategy, and then election had to be shifted. Elections had to be shifted for the reasons of insecurity, primarily, and then secondarily for distributions of PVCs. In that period when election was shifted, we can now see the court coming into play and trying to make the electoral process only more strenuous. So I think that, to cut a long story short, that the government is trying to break the opposition. This is the first time in the history of Nigeria, at least in this in this democratic era, when we have had such a strong opposition who is so formidable as to even break the strongholds where in places where the dominant party um, used to be so strong. And I think that they know this. They know that the APC has grown and has become a very strong force to reckon with. And right now, all their strategies are how to break this stronghold. And one of them, like you will know, is I mean, if you want to divide, this is what I would call divide and rule. You want to divide people's minds, divide attention, and so you are using some means to bring in new parties, all so that you can break what is seemingly standing as one on the other hand.
So my question is, how will the emergence of him, I mean, going by what you were saying, how
Yeah.
will the emergence of a new party in any way break the opposition?
Well, it will not break the opposition as it were, but then what you'll be doing is you'll be dividing the votes. Politics is a game of numbers, and who wins is who gets the most votes. What I think is happening, I mean, I'm hearing this for the first time, but what I think is happening, if this is actually what is happening, is that they're trying to register. I mean, if they register this party, it's going to be a party who is going to start fighting for people. I mean, who's going to start campaigning for people. And what I think is happening is that these guys are trying to snatch some of the supporters of the various oppositions now onto some other sides. Because, in my opinion, the ruling party does not have as much numbers as it needs to win this election. And the only way it can make up, I mean, in relative terms now, the only way it can get the best figures is by getting is by breaking the figures of other opposition parties, by breaking the number of supporters that are in other opposition parties. Then it can rise higher above the other opposition parties. So this is what I think.
Great. So, Mikhail, I'm back to you now. What is your take on this new party? And do you think that this may in any way uh, bring about another change in the schedule? Do you see that happening?
Okay, thank you very much. You called it out of my mouth. That is the very likely reason why another party is being registered now. Now that it's very evident that Jega is not meant to go before March 28th, another game plan could be the registration of this new party. And as you have seen, now that they are pushing for reprinting of the ballot papers and all those materials. So even if every other quarters suggests going by this March 28th, the new party alone can set out fight for shifting the poll dates. And once that is done, this is not meant to be at this very point in time. This is a point where we have to invoke the doctrine of necessity. The doctrine of necessity must be well invoked to get to a ground point where we stand our grounds as a country that nothing will shift the poll, because the reason why the poll it was shifted was because of the acclaimed PVC's uncollected and the security. So now the case of the new party, they should just probably go and wait. I'm sorry to say this, but let me tell you something. I am actually baffled because the new parties should be talking now. I mean, the little parties. I'm not talking about the APC, I'm not talking about the PDP. How do we consider the cost of shifting any election? If PDP can easily show that the election can go through the campaign and all that, go through their programs with the money, APC using their states to make money and using people to get money. What about the small parties? So what is going to happen to them? So how are we now going about our institutions? How are we going about the whole polity entirely? Then we are damaging everything. We have simply made it money politics. So because look at the 14th of February, the poll date was shifted. Now March, it has serious cost implications. And nobody's talking about all this. So we cannot afford to shift it again. And not because of anything, and not even because of any party. I could see and heard some few weeks ago where some persons in the corridors of power were calling for 6 months extension and all that. Even when the president had said that anybody that calls for this is actually calling for something that is that is treasonable. You understand? So I am not surprised that you see all of this mess and rubbish all around just because some people want to hold on to power and they don't want to let go. So the reason why I know that they are calling for this new party to have a stake in the election and all, it is not to win any election, it's not to gather any number of votes, it's no other thing but to do what? To change the date again. And there's something, I must say it. I started being active on social media these days. I've been very busy with my programs. And these are some of the things. Some things are actually happening in our country, and you tend to ask questions. Is this a country? You see many funny things. You see the Ethiopians coming to make jest of you. You see the Ghanaians coming to say many funny things. We should stop making the whole process a joke. And going, let me on the final note, let me say to close the I thought we were going to come back to Monday on the matter of Jega. I want to advise Mr. President, a very good man, to be very careful so that the lawmakers does not use Jega's case as a bait for impeaching him. I don't trust some of the lawmakers. Thank you.
Of something close to a bomb and just left it hanging there. I mean, I'd like you to speak a lot more about lawmakers, impeachment, and the Jega matter. What exactly is fueling this concern? What have you seen? What have you noticed? And how could it possibly work out? Because I'm sure that the president will have legal advisors. You definitely go through consultations before making serious decisions such as anything that would concern Jega or the elections. So I want to understand where your fears are coming from.
Okay, let me put it straight. If it cannot be cleared legally that Jega could be made to proceed on compulsory terminal leave, and somebody somewhere in this government, which may actually not be Mr. President because he has been speaking and he has been coming out playing and all that. But we cannot trust everybody in this government. Be some people with interest. They just play this game and they ended up easing Mr. President out. There is no way. There is no way you'll be able to argue all of these things and tell anybody that this good president doesn't know about it. And do you know what is going to happen? Then the House can just take advantage of that. They crossed their own constitutional boundaries of not involving them as to having to third of the House before sacking Jega through the back door. That is how they could interpret it, and that has been my fear. Thank you.
Okay, so let me get reactions to this because I know that couple of people would like to react to this. Muiwa, what is your take on this? I mean, it's quite interesting.
Well, let me respond to the formation of the Young Democratic Party, which for me is an extension of the PDP as a political party. The case is a closed case. It's whichever way you look at it, it's a dead end. The rules are very clear. You cannot be a part of an election when the process is leading up to the election has closed. I mean, that's what the 2011 Electoral Act stipulates. So for me, I don't see it as a party that has the capability to stop the elections. That said, again, with everything and anything, it's possible in Nigeria. So it's perhaps one of the few countries where only the unexpected happens and the expected never does. I wouldn't be surprised if Jega bows to pressure as it did in the build up to the postponement of the February 14th elections. But I do not think, and I also think so strongly, I do not think the registration of the YDM would affect the dates. I also think that Jega and his INEC will appeal that court judgment, particularly the verdict or the judgment which stipulates that the party should be registered for the elections. That will again be an affront on the 2011 Electoral Act. That said, that's a gimmick that failed or that has failed and that wouldn't work vis-a-vis the possible postponement of the election. That said, let's move on to the prospect or the possibility of impeaching Mr. President. I don't think that the two houses, as presently constituted, with all due sense of responsibility and modesty, I think they do lack the balls to carry out such initiatives. A responsible parliament, I mark my words, a responsible parliament would have impeached this president a long time ago when they had genuine opportunities and genuine reasons to. That they have failed to do that tells you that both the parliament and its membership, both arms, House of Rep, the Senate, a group of people who, at the very best, are there to serve their interests first at the expense of all Nigerians. When we had thousands and thousands of Nigerians being killed almost on a weekly basis by Boko Haram, we didn't see any impeachment. For me, that is much more serious an offense than the possibility of removing an INEC chairman whose appointment is almost at the sole prerogative of the presidency. I have seen when we had the immigration atrocity committed by the incumbent Minister of Interior, Abba Moro, we didn't see any serious action from that house, whether as it affects the man, whether that's a ministry or the president who appointed them. So there are 1,100 explanations or reasons why this president could have been impeached if you had a serious parliament. I don't see it as something that would happen in Nigeria. There's something we are failing to understand about the Nigerian state. This is not how a normal country should run, and this for me is not a normal country. Extremely dangerous a country. So you wouldn't expect things to follow its normal course. We should stop talking about impeachment because it's not going to happen because we don't have those who have the ability to make such moves. And even if we do have a few of them in that parliament, you'll be surprised at how quickly such moves will be disembarked on. So I mean, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen in this dispensation. Maybe in the next few years, when we'll have in Nigeria that we can truly begin to call our own, where people are held accountable for offenses or, if you like, atrocities committed while in office. But this present constitution of legislators, both at the lower and the upper houses, for me, personal opinion, it did not look like it who can make a real change. And I also do not see any reason why they should impeach a president at this stage of the game. The man he's got about a few weeks left in the office. Allow the process to run its course, and let's see what happens. But again, that's not to say that if it does something that's that concrete enough to impeach him, why not? But even if it does that, we don't have the people who can. So it's not an issue I want to get engaged in. I think it's just a waste of time.
Great, thank you so much, Olumiwa. You just shared your thoughts, and well, I'm sure not everybody will agree with you on some of the things you said, but then let's move on. I'm coming to you, Ajayi, as we kickstart the aspect of talking about card readers. Now, card readers are right now, as we speak, being tested in 12 states in the country across 6 geopolitical zones, and Channels TV has been tracking this. We've been on it, and we already have preliminary reports coming in. Well, it's sort of a mixed bag. Some places, like in Lagos, our correspondent Shewo Kimbaloy reported that the card readers were taking about 7 seconds to do their work, while in other places like Anambra, it was taking up to 1 minute to 3 minutes to work. Just different cases in different places, but that still hasn't stopped the argument about PDP and some other parties saying they're kicking against the card readers. Perhaps they don't trust the device enough. So what is your take on this? Do you think that perhaps if all goes well today, then everybody will be on board and would okay the use of card readers for the elections? Ajayi, what is your take?
I would first of all like to ask you, because you're privy to information about what is going on right now with the card readers. Do you mean that, I mean, by saying that some card readers take 7 seconds and some take a minute, do you mean that is the time it takes to boot before it starts working, or that is the time it takes for every voter, as it were,
That
to
is the time it takes to verify a
a
voter.
voter?
So in Lagos, our
Um,
correspondent reported that it was taking about 7 seconds. But in Anambra, our correspondent says it took about a minute to 3 minutes, different cases, and that some people were not schooled properly on how to place their thumbs on the device. So just different cases.
Well, talking about the card reader, first of all, I would like to say that the card reader, I think, is the best thing that will happen to Nigeria's electoral process. Having said that, I'm not sure of the reason why exactly the same card readers will take 7 seconds in some states, and in some other areas they will take up to 1 minute. I would like to suspect that I mean, what is happening has to do with the network, because I heard when Jega was demonstrating the use of the card readers before the Senate, I heard him saying we are going to make use of the mobile phone network. So I would like to think that it has something to do with networks, and of course how congested networks are. I would, at this point, before I proceed, suggest that the various networks that are going to be used, I'm not sure of which ones are used now or are going to be used for the elections, but that the various networks that are going to be used for the elections be incorporated into the logistics processes or the technical processes of INEC, so that they know that in such and such areas, networks are supposed should be boosted, at least for that day. Whatever they have to do to keep those machines working properly, I think that those things should be done so that we don't have any hitch or any hitches that day. Um, then about the use, generally about the use of the card reader or the card readers, I think that the card readers are a very good thing. I think that the card readers, to a large extent, will reduce the risk of anybody trying to manipulate the elections to the barest minimum. And I, quite frankly, do not understand the reason why anybody would feel skeptical about the card reader. I understand the fact that the card readers are being introduced in Nigeria for the first time, and some people are skeptical because they think that if you have to introduce a new device to such, I mean, to the electoral process, then it shouldn't be test run in such a huge or important election as the presidential election. But then these things have been tested. Jega has assured us of backups in every state, and I mean they have very good battery lives. Uh, thank God they are being tested right now, and timing may be the problem, but we are not hearing that there's any technical issues with the card readers. So I think that the card readers are good, and the use of them should be sustained.
Thank you very much. Mikhail, I saw you nodding your head a couple of times. Do you have any comments you'd like to add?
Yes, I actually have, but if I could be permitted to really substantiate and say some, based on what I was saying before, as to Mr. President being a good man and not playing to the ends of some mysterious politicians. You could remember that some few weeks ago, some cabals in the PDP South were calling not just for Jega's removal, but Jega's arrest. And you could see what followed in the, you understand, in the northern part of the country. Some other people were actually reacting, and so it almost became a kind of a, let me say, a regional thing. And it was going to escalate. I don't know how the whole thing died down. Not forgetting the fact that if you read from some quarters, Sanusi's case was almost protested by the lawmakers. In fact, they wanted to make it a serious issue, if not because of recalling what was said that Sanusi himself did to the House by coming to bust their salaries and all that. Oh, the lawmakers are taking just a percent of that. Was one of the reasons why they now checked everything and they piped down. So as to the fact that some lawmakers could not take advantage of this Jega thing, I do not want to subscribe to that. Looking at the antecedents and what has happened, the people you say they could not really do anything. When it really comes to it, to some interest and strong interest, I want to tell you that they can take advantage of this one. The other time it was said, oh, why would one minister be investigated? She was in office. The other one, you said you want to investigate and you send him out. So I don't want to say that some people with interest cannot take advantage of these of asking Jega to go before his time. So and we have to be very, very careful because I know that if the president is impeached, it's going to cause another serious trouble. That is that. As for the card reader, I certainly know that that is one of the. In fact, I want to believe that that is one of the reasons why Jega seems to be having more trouble. The card reader appears to be one of the reasons why he's having troubles. And if he can just probably cancel the card reader by tonight, that forget you're not going to use it, I want to tell you that his adversaries and adversities would reduce by 50% all overnight. But I think we have actually outgrown we have outgrown that. We should not come to the point of debating whether we should use a card reader, we should not use a card reader. In 2015, I, as much as some of us are calling for at least bringing military presence for this election, even though we may not be 100% constitutionally correct. You understand? But considering, so also the card reader, you understand, could be, no matter what people will say, after all, he has come to clear the head that this is not an electronic voting. It's just to accredit, it's just to make the accreditation easy. After all, the TVC itself, if you see anybody with a fake TVC, you are not going to allow the person this is not PVC now, you're not going to allow the person to go on with accreditation. So also, if you see somebody with a fake PVC, yeah, you are not supposed to allow it. But the only thing that can actually detect this PVC is no other thing but a card reader. So now that the man has cleared the hair and he has made everything so understandable, I think we should go ahead. As for the number of, I actually followed some of these demography and these numbers. I actually saw that with the maximum was 3 minutes. But if you actually take the whole average of everything, you see that we still have that 1 minute. So telling you that we can actually arrive on time, just in time, within that 5 hours, accreditation could be achieved and is going to be made. As for the disparity in one particular part of the country to the other side, I think it could actually be a thing of expertise, really. Some people have not actually mastered. And again, it could be environmental. Moist, if your hand is moist, you are a farmer, you are that. If there are lacerations on your print, it's not going to read quickly. I do not think it is a matter of network because I think the network really comes in by the time you want to do the final uploading. As when you on the spot, you have all the data, the biometric data, they are already loaded in form of the same technology. They're already loaded on this card reader. So you're supposed to go there and have it pass through if you are the original holder of this card. But if you're not, it's going to be rejected. So I think some of the little itch we are encountering maybe more information should be given out to people that are coming. Another thing is probably having waste, a kind of moist material for people to clean their hands as they come. And again, I'm going to suggest that they should not just kill the whole time on one person. Far back then, when the registration was being done for the TVC, if they are trying to capture your biometric, your fingerprint, and it's not going through the first pass, second pass, they ask you to step to one side. So if that is done, you understand, I think we're not supposed to be talking about using it or not using it. It's for me, it's not even an option. We have moved beyond that.
All right. Thank you so much. So, as we round up this conversation, I'd like us to discuss one final issue. And when I call you to give your comments on it, I'd like you to give your comments on that issue and then your parting words about all we've discussed thus far. Now, in Lagos alone, over 1 million people are yet to get their PVCs, and that's just in Lagos alone. So, do you think that INEC is completely ready or almost completely ready to conduct this election? So that's the question. And as you answer, please do also tell me what your final remarks are concerning the conversation we've had thus far. I'll start with you, Muiwa.
I think that we must always remember that in an examination, and for you to score and pay, in the school I went to, you need to score a 70 over 100. I understand about 5 to 6 million um, voters' cards were printed in Lagos or was printed for Lagos. And I also understand that we have just slightly above 1 million cards that haven't been collected. So if you look at that ratio, it means for every 6 cards printed, you have 5 people have already collected theirs. That for me is a score of between 85 and 90%. And I do not think that's suffice enough as a reason for the elections not to hold. Again, INEC can only make cards available. That institution doesn't have the prerogative or the capacity to force people to get their cards. It's solely at the discretion of the owner of such cards to go for it. The best INEC can do as an institution, in my own understanding, is what it's done vis-a-vis its enlightenment and it's giving people the opportunity to go collect their cards. And also think that the Lagos state government and all state governments in actual fact gave their workers 1 2 day off to go put their cards. And that for me is commendable. So if people haven't collected their cards, well, it's their choice. And I think it again tells you that Nigerians are dissatisfied with this system. There is so much apathy in the land. That could also be an explanation. Then the demographics might also have changed. It's very, very possible that so many persons have moved from where they registered the last time and they now reside in somewhere else. Again, it's possible that a number of people might have died. So there are so many explanations that could be accountable for that. What is important for me is have we been able to at least surpass the minimum standard for election, which I think the INEC as an institution and Nigerians as a people have been able to do. So if you have 70-75% collection rate across board, I think elections can go on. I also think that we won't make or mar the process. That I think has been achieved. Yes, it wasn't where we were the pre-February 14th. A few weeks after, we fought beyond where we were on the 10th or 11th of February. So I think elections should be able to go on successfully and smoothly this time around. I also think INEC is better prepared for the elections. I had my doubts, although I think I do believe that if they wanted to, they could have had their elections, but that would have been a grant for so many petitions at the tribunal. So fair enough, the elections were postponed against the people's will, but in the end, there seemed to be some positive attached to that postponement. I strongly believe that INEC is far more prepared than it was pre-February 14th. I also think the convention is in a better state to give us a fairly credible election. I doubt if we could really have a Trump free and fair elections in Nigeria, but we could have a fairly credible process where the people would have the right to decide who to govern them. And I think the atmosphere is right for that now. I also think the decisions are ready. And again, let's see what happens on the 28th and on the 11th, as scheduled by INEC. So my parting shot will be to Nigerians, we must exercise our responsibilities. The most important of it all is the one that is approaching in the next few weeks. We must have, it is our right, it is our duty, it is our responsibility to decide who to govern us. That's the most important element of feature of any democracy world over. And we must do that without fear or favor. We must not do that because we are baits being thrown at us. We must do that because we feel the pains and the burdens of what it means to be Nigerian. And we must exercise that in the best interest of our conscience. Whichever party we are voting for, people must realize that it's a decision that will take us under 4 years to correct. So, and again, there is popular adage, the people will always decide the kind of leaders they get. If we decide to vote for continuity, good luck to us as a people. If we decide to go for change in the other direction, if it's positive change, good luck to us, also as a people. But I hope and sincerely believe that at the end of this exercise, Nigerians will have the final laugh and it will be in the interest of Nigerians alone. And we must not always forget, politicians all over the world are the same. There are only a few exceptions amongst them. So while casting our votes, let's always have this as our mind. And I wish that country and our country, indeed, a fairly peaceful and absolutely positive in terms of outcomes of the elections.
All right, thank you very much, Moiwa. Ajayi, so over to you now. Your take on INEC's readiness or not to conduct the elections and your parting shot. Kindly please make it brief. Thank you.
I think that I would like to say that INEC to a large extent is ready. Jega has said by himself that if 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 Nigerians or if the government thinks that he did well in 2011, that now he's even more prepared. And so I would like to take him for his words and know that INEC is ready. About the number of people who have received their PVCs, I think that is a very difficult thing to judge by, because it is one thing for the cards to be provided and it is just another thing for people to go and collect them. Unfortunately, we are in a system where INEC cannot go door by door knocking on people's doors to give their cards to them. They are located at a particular spot and these people have to make an effort to come and collect them. A lot of people are not interested in the elections, and this is understandably so, because they probably do not have, I mean, they think the system is not credible. So whether we go by 70%, 75%, 65%, 60%, I think is a debate for another day. But the most important thing for me is that INEC makes the cards ready and keeps the cards that ready for a particular period of time. And hopefully these people come and collect their cards. My parting statement would be that, in my opinion, this is one opportunity Nigerians have to change their situation. Jega has proved himself to be somebody with integrity, and he has been tested in 2011. INEC, under the leadership of Jega, is in even a more better space right now in 2015, especially with this card reader technology. And so I would advise every Nigerian to go collect their PVCs and vote in or out who they want in peace. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. And last but not the least, Mikhail, your parting shot.
I just want to advise Nigerians to do everything peacefully so that we can have a country after the election. All stakeholders, the voters, the administrators, even the government should be very mindful of the fact that we need to have a country after the election. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining this hangout. It has been quite a conversation, and I do hope that as many people who are watching and who will eventually watch uh, this video would take one or two things from what you've said, and hopefully people in authority, government, INEC would watch this and also take clues from all the things you said. Thank you so much for joining once again. Kindly, let's continue this conversation on Twitter. So you can tweet at Channels Beam. That's where we are, and that's where we'll be taking your comments from here on out. I am Mayawa Ogundele. Thank you so much for joining, and like I always say, God bless Nigeria.